Hello and a very warm welcome back to Fox's Weight Watcher Kitchen. I'm Johnny Fox. Now guys, today's recipe I want to share something that I absolutely adore eating: chickpea, kale and spinach curry. Okay, so a lovely chickpea curry made with some spinach and some kale as well. We're going to be using curly kale from Tesco's, some baby spinach and of course the ever famous chickpeas, but we won't need a whole bag of these. The amount we're going to need, if you have got your cup measurements, you're going to need one of these cups of chickpeas. Then you will need a pressure cooker, and all we do is put those into the pressure cooker and get them prepared. Once you've got the chickpeas, put them into your pressure cooker. We're going to fill it up with water till it's almost to the top, and all we're going to do is put it on the stove for about 30 minutes and then leave it onto a slow release. Once it's slow released, put them through the strainer and leave them to cool down. Once the chickpeas are done and out of the way, we're going to use about half a bag of the spinach. Give it a good rinse underneath the tap to make sure all the impurities are done. Once that's been done and strained off, get it onto the chopping board, because at this point what we don't want to do is have great big chunks of spinach. I know spinach, when it cooks, it breaks down quite easy anyway. All we're going to be doing at this point is helping the spinach to mix in with the curry nice and easy, same as the kale and same as the chickpea, but all we're doing is giving this a nice rough chop so that basically once we're done we've got a nice whole bowl full of spinach. And then the final piece we're going to use is again the kale, half a bag of kale. Give it a good rinse under the tap, get rid of any impurities from out of the bag, and if you find that as you're going through and you're wiggling them around, if you get any stumpy bits like this, just break all the leaves off. We don't really want those in there because they can be a bit chewy. We're looking for a nice curly kale finish, and that'll be us prepped up. Now the prep work's all done and dusted, this is how it should be. You've got a bowl full of kale, bowl full of spinach, and of course your cooked chickpeas. Want to run you through the rest of the ingredients before we start the cooking process to show you what we're going to be using. Tennis ball size onion, I'm using red and yellow pepper, half of each. For seasoning, a little spoonful of salt. Remember guys, in some of my previous videos I'm using garlic and ginger paste, so you know quantity wise I'm using 40 grams. Remember I showed you I make batches up and I freeze it down. I'm using 2 cubes of this, which is going to equate to 40 grams of my garlic and ginger paste. Masala sauce, I'm going to be using a couple of vine tomatoes. Spices, I want to run you through these spices that I'm using on this for flavour. 1 teaspoonful each of, I'm using cumin powder, coriander powder, paprika powder. I'm using the mustard powder, the Indian mustard powder. Do you remember I showed you a video a little while ago? If you haven't seen how to make the mustard powder, there's your link just there. So a teaspoonful of that. And I'm also using, instead of using fresh cardamom seed pods this time, I'm just using 1 teaspoonful of cardamom powder. Half teaspoonful we're using turmeric and some Kashmir Chilli powder. That is all of the ingredients we're going to be putting it together. So how do we get this cooking together? Now if you are on Weight Watchers or you're using a weight loss program, remember I always told you I would weigh things to show you how many points it's going to be if you're with Weight Watchers, and also show you healthy alternatives. Oil, I'm using rapeseed oil, and so you know how much, if you're with Weight Watchers, I'm just going to use 26 grams of rapeseed oil. It's the extra virgin one, and that will equate to just a mere 5 points for your dinner. That will be the whole lot. And while we're getting that ready, I'm going to get the cooker on and then start a little bit of prep work. So get the waste pot ready. So you will need an onion. For this one I'm just using a red onion. You can use a red one or a white one. It doesn't really matter which one that you use, because any base of Indian you always need onion, garlic and ginger. It's always the same old thing, but it does taste absolutely delicious. So we're going to get this one a little bit prepped up and peeled, and we'll be straight back. Okay, so that is all the onion all chopped up. All we're going to do now is pop those into the pan. As you can hear, oil is nice and hot already to start the cooking process, and we'll just get those in and give those a little bit of a stir after giving the hands a quick wipe. And remember, with the garlic and ginger guys, normally I will put this in after the onions have been cooking for a while, but because they're frozen, I'm going to put both of those straight in now and start giving that a little bit of a stir, just so they start blending slightly together. And while that oil is doing its job on the onion and garlic, I'm going to start with the peppers, because I want to get these nicely sliced down, because this adds, you can use whatever, guys, it doesn't matter if you're using red pepper, yellow pepper, orange or green. It depends on your personal preference on taste. For me, these are the ones I've got in the fridge at the moment, so I'm going to be using capsicum pepper for taste. And because I don't want it too sour, I'm using the sweeter one, so a bit of yellow and a bit of red. But I would say about half of each. And you can just get the fragrance of these when they start cooking up already. I say this every time, I really wish this was smell-o-vision, because then you could really appreciate how nice this does taste. And all we're doing is slicing it down. Basically, I'm trying to get these as small as we possibly can, so they cook a lot quicker. And it all enhances with the flavour. And the good thing about this one, with the chickpea, although there's no meat in this dish at all, I mean, I have done it in the past with some turkey mince, with some chicken as well as the chickpeas, but if you want to have what I call a pure vegetarian dinner, this is one of my favourites, because remember we only pressure cooking the chickpeas for 30 minutes. If we were making things like hummus and stuff like that, you would pressure cook them for 50 minutes and they go a lot softer. Because on this one we're only going to be cooking them in the pressure cooker for 30 minutes, it does actually keep them with a bit more of a meaty texture, so you get a bit more to bite on. All we're going to do is keep this on the stove now and fry these down until the onions are starting to caramelise and soften down the onion and garlic and ginger paste all together. Just give it a nice little wiggle round in the pan. And while that's doing that, we can start prepping on the masala sauce. Because as everyone knows, when you're making me masala sauces, you need fresh ingredients, which is what I prefer. Don't believe in, you can use standard tomatoes if you want, you can use plum tomatoes if you want to as well. Just depends on personal preference. For me, I do like the taste of things, so if I'm going to use tomatoes in this one, I want the tomatoes to be as fresh as possible. As you can see, I don't like these little core things. That's a lot of people say to me, why do you always take those bits out? I don't like the stalky bits, never been a lover of them, never will be. But this is purely so we can get ready for the masala sauce in a minute, because once we add all them spices into it, it won't take long before we start adding all of these other ingredients in. And as you can see, all we're doing is just prepping up some tomatoes. Doesn't really matter if you've got one of those chopper things that you want to use, you can use it. For me, I just like to break these down as fine as I can possibly get them, no big chunks, because I find it just helps the process of speeding it up. And that is the tomato almost there. And you'll see as well, the one thing that normally, if I'm doing a standard curry, I'll always put the salt in with the garlic, ginger, onions to help it reduce down quicker. Because on this one, I'm using a teaspoonful of rock salt. Flavour wise, I always find it's got a lot more intensity in flavour. And now this is starting to brown slightly. We can move that to one side. I'm going to give this a little spin over. That is catching just nicely now. So what I want to do now, all of the spices together, the whole lot, just all in one go. And that will take care of the spices. And at the same time, I'm also going to put in my little bit of rock salt. And we're just going to give this a little bit of a stir. And remember, I've told you this, guys, I don't know how many times, every time I do a curry, the one thing that you don't want to do is at this point burn your spices. So time wise, if you can see the flame is on full heat at the moment underneath. Once you put these spices to the inside, I always leave them on the gas, cooking almost dry like this for usually 30 seconds to a minute. Any longer and you'll probably be burning your spices, and that's one thing that we don't want to do. That's why I've got all the tomatoes ready, because instead of adding water to begin with, I want to make my lovely masala sauce. As you can see that from the overhead camera, you can see that is now cooking nicely now. It's had about 30 seconds to a minute. Just going to start putting in some of these tomatoes now. Try not to get them all over the stove like I did the other week. And that will take care of all of that. Try and get all the juice in at the same time. And then that just in itself will stop all of these spices from burning. But you can see just with the amount of colours in there, I do believe food, not so much as the taste, although for smell-o-vision, I've said this before, I really wish you guys could smell this, because it drives me crazy at this point. Every time I'm making a curry, because as you all know I'm a curry lover, every time I'm making myself a curry and the fragrance of all these spices, the onion, the garlic, the ginger all come together, this is where I like it, because there's a little bit of wet in there, a bit of moisture in there from the tomatoes. That is what seems to enhance all of the flavours. And as you can see, all I'm doing is sort of almost dry frying these down for a minute. It's usually about a minute or two just to get the tomatoes to break down, because all we're trying to do at this point is to get the tomatoes to break right down, and it turns it into that lovely masala base. And you can play with it whichever way you like. For me, I like to just grab hold of things and just give it a flick from time to time. And fragrance wise, I keep checking. It's one of those things, I don't know if it's years of experience or just something you get used to when you're doing things. I know that the masala is almost getting there. Also, you will need, when we put the other ingredients in, a little bit of water as well. As you can see, lovely filtered water. This will help to reduce that down, and just enough to cover over the top, but without going too heavy on it. What we don't want to do is make it too wet so it's not going to cook. And as you can see, flame wise underneath is still up full, and at this point this is where we can start now adding some of these other ingredients. And I always have a little way that I like to do this. I make sure that all the masala sauce is nice and wet first. Kale goes in at the base, because this is one of the longest ones to cook, because the chickpeas are already cooked. He's all done. Spinach, we can just sit that on the top. And then all I do at this point, because the chickpeas are already cooked, but I'm just going to pop those on the top, because all this will do is add a little bit of weight to the spinach. And once all of those are done over there, we can move that to one side. All I'm going to do at this point, guys, take the lid of your saucepan or whatever you're using and just cover that over, and we're just going to leave this on the stove now for probably about 5 minutes to just try and reduce things down before we start incorporating the flavours. Cook wise at this point, we're probably about 15 minutes away before we can actually start eating. So let's cut the video there, leave that on the stove for 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, so we've had it on the stove now for about 5 minutes. Just going to pull the lid off and have a look. You can see from the overhead camera, all of the spinach is starting to get nice and soft underneath there. The chickpeas is just having a little bit of a steaming, and you can, this is what I like to do on mine, is just give it a bit of a wiggle over to get this masala sauce and everything all mixed in together. If you haven't got the wok, or you're not using this technique of flicking things over, all we're trying to do is incorporate it. So you can just get your little wooden spoon, or if you haven't got one of those, you can get your big serving spoon, and we're basically just folding everything into itself to cook it all together. You can see from all of these beautiful colours, I mean this is what I call eye candy. I know it's a curry, but it's real nice on the eye as well as taste buds at the same time. And as you can see, if I just let that settle down for a touch, give it a bit of a squash down, you can see it's still bubbling heat wise, so you know I've still got the gas on full. And all I'm trying to do at this point is reduce things down. I might in a while add a little touch more water to it, because what we're going to do, in fact I'll add that in there now because there's not quite enough moisture in that one. Just a little splash over the top, just so it doesn't burn it. But you can see the spinach is breaking down nicely, and you can see earlier on when I was talking about some of these bits of stump. Personally, I'm not a lover of stumps in kale. That's why when I was doing the rinsing off and breaking off all the leaves, I love the taste of kale, but not a lover of the stumps. So I'm going to give that one more little shake just to make sure it's all incorporated. And then what we're going to do, flame down at this point, and we're going to put the lid back on, and And we're just going to let that simmer down now for about a further 10 minutes and then we'll be ready to serve. But before we do that, you can see on the side here, let's move that bit of kale out of the way. You can see on the side, all I've done is chopped up a bit of coriander, so about 2 or 3 minutes prior to the end, all I'm going to do is put the coriander in there. It gives it that lovely enhanced rich flavour towards the end. Once that's in there, we'll give it a serve up and I'll show you at the end, so back in a while. Okay, so we're into the home straights now. The curry's almost there. 10 minutes it's been on the stove. 2 or 3 minutes ago I put the coriander in now. I've just been giving it a bit of a stir around together. I've kept the lid, when I kept the lid on all the way through to keep it nice and steaming, the gas has been on quite low because this is quite a dry one. You can have it wetter if you like, and I have even heard of people adding cream towards the end stages to give it a bit of thickening as well. For me, I don't want the cream, I don't want the calories. As you can see from this, it's a lovely chickpea, kale and spinach curry with loads of other flavours in there. All I'm going to do now is take the gas off and give this a bit of a serve. You can see you will get 2 portions of dinner out of this, 2 spoonfuls apiece. And if you take a look at that, that is absolutely delicious. Oh. And guys, the smell of this. Now remember, if you're trying to lose weight, this is one of your healthy dinners as well. Not a huge dinner. You can have it as a side dish if you're having a main course dinner as well. You can put your naan breads on the side. If you haven't seen how I make my naan bread with the red lentils, click on that there for the 5 lentil recipes. You'll see that one. It shows you how to make a lovely garlic and curry lentil naan. Nice and easy. Beautiful dinner on this one. This is one of my all-time favourites. Got to have a little taste because this is where, guys, every good cook, and not saying I'm a good cook, but every cook loves to try their food towards the end. So, oh guys, if you are a curry lover, because there's no chilli cooked in there like when I did the jalfrezi curry, it's got that lovely curry taste. It's nice and meaty without the meat because the chickpeas are not so soft that they're just melting and dissolving in your mouth. Flavor wise, it's absolutely incredible. Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Like all my other ones, I've enjoyed making it because I love to cook. I'm going to serve this up for my wife and I now. We're going to go and have a bite to eat. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you do like it, you know where that subscribe is, and leave some comments as well, and we'll catch you on the flip side on the next video. Till then, have a great time. Bye bye now.